Hey everybody, Bryan Reynolds with the Appraisal Update podcast. I've got someone here with me that I'd like to introduce you to, and I've talked about him a little bit. He might not know it, but you've heard me mention his name. If you've taken classes from me, you've probably heard me mention his name. And when we come back, you'll get to meet him. So come right back. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update podcast, brought to you as always by the very fine folks of Appraiser eLearning. And if you haven't figured it out by now, you can also watch this podcast on YouTube. Jump over to YouTube and search Appraiser eLearning. Go ahead and click subscribe. You'll be in the know that way. And you'll be able to see the podcast, you'll see Hal's briefings, and you'll see the appraisal report webinars that we do on a regular basis. But today, I'm super excited to have one of my team members here. And sometimes I just call him the preacher, but sometimes I call him Preacher Shawn or Trainee Shawn or just the really good guy Shawn. So Shawn, say hello to everyone and tell them a little bit about Shawn.
Hello everyone, I'm Shawn Shoulders. If I talk too fast too, y'all just let me know. Everybody here aggravates me with my drawl I have, but live in Lafayette, Tennessee, and doing some work for Bryan down in Tennessee and Nashville and surrounding areas. And taught school for 11 years. Realized with 2 stints of that wasn't for me. I have farmed ever since I was big enough to do anything, and been in the home construction, home remodeling for 25 plus years, and I have found that is very beneficial to this line of work, and it kind of kept me in track for this line of work. I wanted to stay in the home and residential side of work, but my body had just about played out on the remodeling aspect of it, doing it all myself. So was looking for a different avenue, and I had talked to some of my banker friends about appraising, and kind of got the ball rolling, and here I am.
Yeah, so Shawn's been with us for a little bit now,
yeah.
And he's been specializing and mostly doing the inspection aspect of what we do, and doing a phenomenal job. I'll say that many times I'll talk, Shawn, that with your background, gosh, you probably know what to look for or know more about a house and its components than the typical appraiser out there across the country. You've been doing that 30 years, right? Yeah. Construction and remodeling, and so he knows houses pretty good, and that was an easy part for him to slide in. So he trained with one of our certified residential appraisers, Matt, for a few months, I guess. Yeah. And then he goes out with me, and still goes out with me, and then many times he goes out by himself. And at this point in the game, and this is to all you lenders out there, let the trainee go out and look at the property without the certified appraiser. It is a disservice to everyone if you make me go with this guy. Because Shawn could be looking at one, I could be looking at a different one. You could be getting 2 done in the time it would take us to do 1 together or more. And he knows what he's doing in that regard. So the lenders really need to loosen up on that. And some have, but we need more to jump on that bandwagon. So we're hopeful for that. And now we've had a little slowdown. We've had a little pullback. The rates, have bumped up and ticked up a little bit. And so tell everybody why you're up in Owensboro, Kentucky today.
So I'm in Owensboro today to get some training on the research analysis side of the appraisals, and we've been focusing more on the inspection side so far. Since it's kind of slow with that, Bryan thought it'd be a good idea, and me also, to come up and start training on the research analysis side of that, which it will require before I can get my license. So, and to me, probably this would be the weak point to me. This is probably where I need the most training is the research analysis side of finding everything, knowing where to look, and so on.
Yeah. So, like I said, Shawn's been out with me several times, and you are a preacher, right?
Yes, I am a preacher.
Okay, and so
some people might say otherwise, but yes.
Well, give a shout out to your church. Tell everybody about your church.
Long Fork Missionary Baptist Church. I think there's maybe 145 on the roll there. We do not have 145 shows up every Sunday. So for all of you that's on the road that's not been there, you need to come to church. So, but yeah, it's just a small country church there. I love it. First and foremost, my work and my duty is to the Lord, to serve Him, and He provides everything I have, and He has provided this opportunity for me. So. Just a small church with great people and a lot of love. So,
yeah, I think, Shawn, that's one of the first things you said to me when we talked. You said, "Hey, I may have a day where I get a call and maybe someone's sick in the hospital, or maybe someone passed away, and I may have to step off and do." Remember that conversation?
Yes.
And I said, absolutely, I respect that, and that's where you need to be in those moments. I really believe that. So, but Shawn's a good guy. He keeps us straight. Now, I do want to close with this, Shawn, because you were telling a story in the other room, and your story was different than how I told it. And I know Mr. Preacher Shawn wouldn't be lying now. But it's just interesting when you hear one side of the story versus the other side. And so what we're talking about, and it's almost healed. So I got a little black thumb here. That's not ink. That's a real busted thumb. And first of all, I'll tell how that happened.
Okay.
So Shawn and I were looking at a house together, and it was FHA.
It was FHA.
And so, as my listeners and maybe now viewers know, with FHA, they require that you look in the crawl space, head and shoulders, and that you look in the attic. And you beat me. You were at that property before I got there, right? So he was already there. He was looking through it. And I think you were inside by the time I got there.
I was just wrapping up the outside.
Okay,
yeah,
but we went in together.
Yes.
So I bypassed the outside and went inside with him. We went around the inside. I walked the entire interior, and that because those ceilings were sloped up there, really, a challenge. And then while he was going to photograph the rooms and take notes, I went ahead and went outside. So I went outside and I looked around. And I think you had told me you had already looked in the crawl space.
Yeah.
So and there were two crawl spaces.
Yeah. Two access.
Two access panels, yeah. He said, I already looked in there. And I said, all right. But guys, FHA requires the appraiser do a head and shoulder inspection of the crawl space, not the trainee appraiser. And come on, FHA, I'd like for you to change that too. I wouldn't have a busted thumb right now, for crying out loud. He had already looked in there. He had made an observation. I didn't see anything different than he saw. But because I'm required to do it, and guys, I'm not saying that, I'm a saint. But when it comes to my businesses, I try and do the right thing, right? We disclose and we say that we're adhering to USPAP. There's an ethics rule. So I went around back to open up that crawl space, and I got it open, but it was a little sticky, right? It would stick. But I got that sucker open. I proceeded to look under there with my head and shoulders, and then when it came to, I don't know how you got it. When it came time to shut it, it wouldn't shut. It just wouldn't line up right. So, I tugged with it a little bit, and finally, I gave it a good old push and pushed that door, and not only did it shut, it went all the way through, and then tried to swing back and caught my thumb in there. So now I'm stuck, or at least my thumb is stuck in the door, and the only way to get my thumb out is to push it in even further and get my thumb out of there. And I'm like, ouch. And I walked around. I remember walking around saying, ouch, I just did this to my thumb. So that's what I remember. Now, what was the story you just
It was a little more dramatic than that.
Come on.
I'm coming out of the front door, finished my pictures. He had asked me if I had looked in the crawl space. I said, yes, I have looked in the crawl space, made pictures. He said, well, I got to go stick my head under there and look. And I said, okay. Well, I failed to mention the door, which I had just by a fraction missed mashing my own finger in the door. But it never registered to warn him of that. But anyway, as I'm coming out the door, the front door, back off the steps, he's coming back from the back of the house holding his thumb and his face just blood red. And he says, I don't want to cuss in front of a preacher or with a preacher here. He said, I've mashed my thumb. And of course, he wouldn't let me see it. He's holding it and everything. So that was a laugh, I guess, for me for the day. For him, it wasn't.
Yeah. And so we were just in the other room, and I showed what I said. Look, it's growing out. It's about gone. And that made him remember this story. And he told all the rest of the team in there, and they started laughing because they believe him more than me. I don't know why. But Shawn, what has been the most challenging inspection that you've done since becoming a trainee appraiser in the great state of Tennessee?
Golly.
I know you've had a few.
Man, I've had some challenges. I guess the big mansion that was picked up and moved, and just the sheer size of it.
It's a big
the appraisal or the inspection, it's not any different. It's just the time involved in it.
Right. And
It's
we're not
all the same.
We're not going to talk value or numbers per se, but I think what you just said is a critical point for the listeners to really take home from this podcast. The size of the house, the more complex the assignment is, there's no magical wand that you handle that a different way.
Right.
You're gonna do the appraisal the same way. You have 3 approaches to value. That's what you have. There are 10 USPEP standards. That's how many there are. The 4 influences that an item must possess in order to have value, those don't change. The 4 agents of production. All these things are the same, and the way you do the inspection is the same. Now, that took a little longer, I think. Yes. How long were you there?
4 hours, and it was 110 degrees.
Yeah, it was hot. It was hot. I felt really bad for you that day.
While he was sitting in the truck.
Well, I didn't sit in a truck. I was there. How long was I there? Maybe an hour?
Yeah, an hour. Yeah.
Hour and a half. I wasn't there 4 hours. That's what I got him for. Yeah. But yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah,
that was Is it interesting?
Well, it was tough, but in a sense, it was easy in the fact that it was the same footprint from basement to the second story.
Right. That helped. But it had an 80. It had a living area over the garage, and then even actually it wasn't a garage at all, was it? Yeah, they had converted.
It used to
all
be
that.
an old carriage house.
Yeah. That was a. What else? Any other ones right before we get off here?
No, the only thing that I run into some issues, or I don't know about issues, but just that for myself have to really take my time is some second stories that's really cut up, with a different footprint. That you have to take your time, or I do. Getting those drawed out accurately.
Yeah. You use the iPad out in the field for data collection. You use a laser measurer, if I remember right.
Yes.
And yours is a little different than mine. What do I keep talking about your laser?
Green light. If you don't have a green light, I would highly advise you to at least try one. So much easier on your eyes. You can see it, I think they say 7 times better than a red light, and I would think probably more than that.
Yeah, so I have showed.
Especially highlight situations outside.
Yeah, I've showed some of my students and folks that have been in my classes the red sunglasses I have. They're actually made to help see that red dot on the disto. And I remember the first time I was out with you and you shot that thing, and I'm like, whoa, wait, because it really illuminates. Do you know what brand that is?
Bosch.
It's a Bosch, and it casts a green light instead of a red light. And man, I guess green is for go, because you can really see that one good. It's even on sunny days, you can see that really, really good.
A red light for me, if I'm in the sunlight, direct sunlight, it's a struggle.
It's hard to see. Yeah, it is. It is. Well, thanks so much for being here, and thanks for all you do for our team. You're a big asset, and I'm tickled to death that you're part of our group here.
Well, I'm enjoying it.
You've been listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast. I'm your host, Bryan Reynolds. Thank you very much for listening. Give us a little review or a 5-star rating if you have a means of doing that. Let us hear your comments. If you'd like to be a guest or know someone that would be a really good guest, reach out to Ben or Kim or I or somebody over at the team at Appraiser eLearning. Until next time, make a lot of money. Take a little break. Everybody needs a little break once in a while. Go to church. Go to church. And happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update Podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.